Thank you for calling for this hearing today. Before he stepped down as executive chairman of BNSF, Matt Rose gave an interview with Railway Age, which I would recommend that anyone interested in the future of the industry read. And when he was asked about the value proposition of his railroad, Rose noted he looked at the value of the railroad as a three-legged stool. One leg being shareholders, because they provide the capital needed for reinvestment in the railroad. Second, employees, which provide the services that allow us to make the return to provide to shareholders. And the third leg of the stool is customers. Unfortunately, thanks to Hunter Harrison and his destructive actions at CSX, we seem to be entering into a new era of railroading where railroads think only less is better. And the three-legged stool is now down to kind of a peg leg. And this is not long-term sustainable or supportable. I worry that the railroads are cementing in his legacy, squeezing out more and more profits for shareholders or, the rapacious Wall Street hedge funds at the expense of long-term investments back into the rail network. Across nearly all the Class I railroads, we're seeing a reduction of capital, maintenance investments, labor costs, and service, all for the sake of reaching lower and lower operating ratios. He called it precision scheduled railroading, but what are the consequences to hedge fund investors bringing out every possible dime from these railroads? Shippers, we're hearing more and more, and we will hold a next hearing, I believe, of this subcommittee with shippers to hear of their frustrations. It's not more precisely scheduled for them. It's costing them time and money. Just last month, the STB held a hearing to examine Class I railroads' increased use of demurrage and accessorial charges to shippers. The hearing brought to light concerns that service has not improved for shippers with the implementation of PSR, but in fact, they're often having to bear the financial burden of these operational changes to profit the people on Wall Street. And then we look at the consequences for the workforce. Thousands of freight railroad workers have lost their jobs. In just 3 years, CSX has cut its workforce from 26,000 down to less than 20,000. Since May 2018, UP has reduced its workforce by 3,000. These aren't just executive or administrative jobs. Their jobs are represented by some of the witnesses sitting before us in the next panel today. Engineers, conductors, yardmasters, signalmen. Signalmen now are required to, at UP, instead of 20 miles of track, 60 miles of track, which for many is a physical impossibility. Switch, bridge repair, maintenance workers, car and locomotive maintenance workers. These are jobs that help ensure a railroad can expand its service and continue to operate safely. On the passenger side, Amtrak's cutting jobs too, not because it's beholden to hedge fund investors, but because of this notion that someday it will have an operating profit. While I appreciate the attention to sound budgetary practices, eliminating the workforce that provides services customers enjoy and reducing the workforce that keeps riders safe seems like a bad idea for the longevity of the national network. Last month, members of this committee were informed Amtrak would be reducing it's the size of the police department, and I only learned about that by talking to an employee at Union Station when we were taking a special train to New York to look at the deteriorated rail system between here and there, they were going to be reduced. I asked management who was on the train with us. They said, oh no, we're just moving assets around to use them more efficiently. Well, that turned out not to be true. They are being reduced, and today we sent a letter signed by 52 other members of Congress raising concerns. Last year, Amtrak police responded and filed reports on more than 18,500 incidents, and they made 2,000 arrests, representing increases over the prior one-year period of 13% for incidents, 29% for arrests. And if you go online, you can find a really spiffy video, very well done, by Al-Qaeda on how to derail a train. And so we're going to cut back on security. Great idea. I think that these cuts, both on the private sector side and on the Amtrak side, are putting us on a very downward path. And I'll be happy to hear from the witnesses today on what impacts these workforce reductions are having. With that, I yield back the balance of my time.